Okie dokie. Good morning. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. A lot to share with you. Somewhat of a controversial subject today. So listen with an open heart and see how it fits for you. Hi to everyone on YouTube. Like the bell button, subscribe. Here every Wednesday with all of you on YouTube streaming. Here every day via Zoom. All of the information is on the website at panachesai.com. So, what an amazingly powerful start to the year we've had. And wow, like I couldn't even, there's no way that I could even begin to summarize the sum total of everything that's happening and everything that we're experiencing as a community. It's like unbelievable. Today I want to talk about something that I feel is hard for some of you. And sometimes it's a hard conversation to have because some of you are fiercely loyal. Some of you have a level of dedication to things, to people. However, you have to now begin to use a level of discernment to recognize when your loyalty and your wanting to help other people is becoming an impediment to you in your life. We are living in an age where you have the capacity to make your life beautiful. We've ascertained through our time together that life isn't something that we have to survive. It's not something that we have to overcome. It's not something that we have to struggle with every day. That actually life is perfect, that we've got everything that we need in life, and it's up to us now to open our heart to it. So it was never the experience of life and living that was the issue. It was the place from within ourselves where we were experiencing from. And for most of you, why it's been a struggle is because there's been some need to derive some sense of safety from your experience. There's been some need to derive some sense of belonging, or you've been trying to exert some level of control or assert your will over your reality. And what I can say is that over the course of the time that we've been together in Called Calm, the love and acceptance that you have extended toward yourself has freed you of the survival. Now, not all of you are free of the survival. Some of you are still at odds with your emotions. Some of you are still at odds with your feelings. Some of you are still at odds with your mind. Some of you are still at odds with your body or your physical experience. You're still of the mindset or the heart set that there is still some issue with you, even though after all of this time you've been told that there isn't. So for those of you that are still experiencing some friction at the human level, that's where you have to go back to the basics and go back to just the acceptance and the love and the inclusivity and the nurturing of your humanity. And that's why the monologues and the meditations are structured in the way that they are. Because that's the foundational piece. You cannot begin to access the beauty and the possibility and the potential and then the infinite unlock that everyone else is experiencing until you've laid that foundation of acceptance and love. And here's the thing. It's not a one-day thing. You have to do it every day. That's why it requires commitment, consistency, and repetition, because you have to become a trustworthy place. You have to become a dependable place for you, where for so long you have not been. Now you have to show up for yourself every day. So in some ways, accepting and loving yourself and nurturing yourself is the foundational demonstration of self-love that you have to deploy to even begin to be able to explore any of the other things. So for some of you, this is where the conversation ends, because your focus needs to be on the acceptance, on the embracing, on the nurturing, and on the loving of you. That's what the focus needs to be. And your time is best spent here in the monologues and the meditations, because that is where we build that commitment and that consistency on a daily basis, and we engage in that repetition. Most of you are not there anymore. So because we've devoted so much time to accepting ourselves, embracing ourselves, and nurturing ourselves, not that you don't have moments of humanity, of course you do, but for the most part, you've moved beyond it. And what you're noticing now is a vast difference between where you are in your experience and where everybody else is. So this is where the conversation becomes a bit uncomfortable. You know, I feel so many of you have been loving other people, you've been loyal to other people, dedicated to other people through the course of your life because you're fundamentally great people. However, you've done it at the cost of yourself. How many more times do you need to hear the same friend share the same story? How many more times do you need to hear the same upset, the same argument? How many more times do you have to relive the same Groundhog Day existence before you finally realize that loving yourself is the key that unlocks something else? And when you start to think in these terms or feel in these terms, it's hard for you because it goes against the programming and the conditioning, which is you're here to love other people. You're here to make other people better. You're here to improve the lives of other people. You're dedicated to that. But the truth is, you're not. You're not. You're actually here to love yourself. You're actually here to choose yourself. And when you think about it, in the context of this simulation, Maya, the illusion, the ocean of samsara, whatever you want to call it, the matrix, this whole thing is about you choosing you and loving you. Because while you were in separation and duality, the best that you could do was receive love from other people, receive abundance from other people. Other people had to enlighten you. Other people were the source of things. That's the best that you can do in separation and duality. In oneness, life is as you are. You're the source of it. So now you don't need other people. Your state of being is not contingent upon another person's state of being. Your happiness is not contingent upon another person's happiness. Your level of love is not quantified or measurable, right, in relationship to the degree to which a person loves themselves. So now here's where the rubber meets the road. It's okay to choose yourself. And sometimes choosing yourself means letting people lovingly know that you're not going to participate in what they once were able to participate in. That you don't want to have the same conversations, it's not your focus, that actually you don't even resonate with it. You can't, actually the funny thing is, most of you can't even find the part of you anymore that used to resonate with these conversations, that used to want to have these interactions, and that used to want to, constantly be in this dialogue that wasn't empowering. And for so many of you, it's hard. But where it's hard is where the most potential and where the most power is. And this is why now more and more, you have to be okay to leave people behind. It's not that you don't love them. It's not that you don't respect them. It's not that you don't advocate on behalf of the best and the greatest for humanity. You do. But you cannot continue to go back in order to go forwards. At some point, you have to keep going forwards. You have to keep building the momentum of your love. You have to keep choosing yourself. You have to keep remembering that it's called self-love, and you have to keep moving on. Now, the good news is that as a result of your evolution, you've left breadcrumbs for people. In the case of our community, the breadcrumbs are, hey guys, if there's still any issue with being a human being, guess what? You're not broken. You're not the problem. You don't have to be fixed, healed, changed, or improved. Accept, love, embrace. Those are the breadcrumbs. But you can't make somebody use those breadcrumbs. You can't make people love themselves. And you can't love people enough for the both of you, right? Some of you have been living under the false premise that if you just finally get to a place of love within yourself, it's going to make the other person love themselves. They're just going to magically be able to love themselves. And that's delusional. That's just another form of magical thinking. It doesn't work that way. That's also a one-way ticket to suffering, to abandonment and rejection, right? And so for some of you, it's become really hard now to hang out or to be around people who are in victimhood. And it's not that you're leaving people behind. It's that you're moving on. You've moved on from survival. You've moved on from suffering. You've moved on from the story. You've moved on from the fear and the anxiety. You've moved on from that. Why? Because you have paid attention and you have been accepting, embracing, and loving yourself. And you've realized the blessing of accepting, embracing, and loving yourself. And when you do, you move on from these things. You move on from these things. So it is a fallacy that you have come here to love another person. Actually, you've come here to love you. The person that you came here to love is you. It's an absolute fallacy that you came here to love another person. Now, here's where it gets really cool. When you actually love yourself, you show people, you model to them, you introduce the possibility and the potential of that for them. However, it doesn't mean that they will. It doesn't mean that they can. It doesn't mean that they have that capacity. And it's okay to move on from that. It's okay. It doesn't mean, actually, in some ways, that's compassion. Because if you were to show up here every day and tell me that you were broken, that you needed to be fixed, that you needed to be healed, that you needed to be improved, and I participated in that, I would be fundamentally disrespecting the truth of you. Does that make sense? I would be fundamentally disrespecting the truth of you. And I could never do that. And that's why since I've met you all, hey guys, this is about accepting and loving yourselves. This is about nurturing yourselves, because that's the only thing that's going to get you out of survival. It's going to shift your relationship with yourself. You're going to stop seeing yourself as a problem. You're going to stop trying to fix some illusory problem that people have told you that you have, and you're finally going to become the answer and the solution. And ultimately, it's the recipe for self-sovereignty and personal empowerment. And so this whole thing, the whole architecture, everything, is loving yourself. Loving yourself. And even, 22 days into the year of 2025, some of you still have some pretty compelling reasons as to why the world is not in divine order, why your life is not in divine order, why things aren't unfolding in the way that they should be, why things aren't working for you. And for that, you now have to go back and start from the acceptance and the love and the nurturing of yourself. That's it. You now have to go back to that breadcrumb. You have to go back to that foundational relationship with yourself. And you have to recognize that there is still some part of you that you have not loved, that you have not accepted, and that you have not embraced. The very second you do, freedom. The very second you do. The very second you wholeheartedly open yourself up to that, you are free. So in 2025, it's going to look like we're leaving people behind. But we're not. They just stopped walking. They stopped loving themselves and we didn't. Did you hear me? In 2025, it's going to look like we left some people behind. But we didn't leave them behind. They stopped walking. They stopped loving themselves and we didn't. Now, what does it benefit humanity for you to remain stuck on the path where somebody else is in their own level of self-love? Is that serving humanity? Isn't it incumbent upon you? Isn't the whole point of this evolution to keep going and to move into the deepest manifestation of love that you can embody within your lifetime? I believe it is. I believe it is. And again, it doesn't mean that you don't have empathy. It doesn't mean that you don't have compassion. It just means that your love is no longer determined by the vibrational states of others. You're no longer having a codependent relationship with your own infinite nature. And I want you to search your hearts right now. How many of you can see that there are just some people that just aren't loving themselves, that just haven't embraced in that foundation of loving themselves, having compassion for themselves, having empathy for themselves, nurturing themselves? Even though we know that that's the solution and that's the answer, they're just not doing it. But how interesting that in the year of 2025, the people who are still engaging in victim consciousness or still looking for evidence or data from the world as to why it's not okay are the same people that aren't doing that. And yet, there's a population of people who are doing that and who have moved on from that. And that's the population that now we have to keep walking with. That's the group that we have to keep walking with. Why? Because we're pushing the frontier and we're pushing the boundary of what self-love is in the context of a human lifetime. And we have to do that. We have to do that. And so as we move forward, you're not leaving people behind, you're just moving forward. And the people that feel like they're being left behind are the people who cannot move forward. They can't move beyond the emotion. They can't move beyond the story. They can't move beyond the feeling. They can't move beyond the mind. They just can't move beyond themselves. And the acceptance and the love and the embracing ultimately liberates them of this illusion that this is all everything that there is. Okay? So, the next question you're going to ask me is, who does this apply to? How many of you can see that this applies to everyone in your life? Well, some of you have children that you gave birth to who don't love themselves very much. You gave birth to them. You raised them. They're in your home, right? And even though you drop breadcrumb after breadcrumb after breadcrumb and provide everything that they could ever want in their lives, they're still not loving themselves. Do you understand? So actually, in not continuing your further momentum, that's leaving everybody behind. Like if we were on a journey, you and I, and for some reason on that path, I couldn't carry on anymore, it would be an absolute shame having gotten as far as we have if you stopped. Because I would want to know, I would want you to realize the totality of who you are 100%. Even if that meant leaving me behind. Just because I can't carry on, it doesn't mean that you don't carry on and you don't explore the possibility and the potential of what awaits us. Do you see what I'm saying? So this is where we have to love ourselves. It's not selfish. It's not narcissistic. It's not self-absorbed. It's choosing to love yourself. It's choosing to prioritize yourself. And it's totally in alignment with 2025. And the more you do this, the more you're going to make your life beautiful. Because you're the only person that can. The more you do this, the more you're going to make your life beautiful. And I'll give you a clue. It's the people who repeat the same story, who are still stuck in the same victim consciousness, who are still incapable of seeing beyond the emotion, the feeling, the mental state, the physical state, the life and living situation. People just can't see beyond their own distortions. But after a while, you have to accept them and accept the fact that they can't. How many of you can see that you've been suffering because of another person's inability to love themselves? For most of you, that's what you call a relationship. Some of you, that's what you call a marriage. And what's interesting is that so many of you come here in the hope that your coming here means that they're going to finally start to love themselves. Have you noticed that it doesn't work? Because they haven't taken the time to accept themselves. They haven't taken the time to embrace who they are, to nurture themselves. They haven't made the commitment. They haven't been consistent with that. They haven't repeated it for 1,402 days or 3 days or 4 days. You have. You can't make people love themselves. You can make your life beautiful, but that requires you loving you. That requires you loving you. It means for the first time in your life, putting yourself first. And it also means respecting people as to where they are in their journey and allowing them to have their experience. You just can't participate in it. You can't participate in it, right? You can't. And this is where some of you need to have a reality check. And this is where these conversations are so hard. Because the truth is that if you're not there, if you're not in that place, well then here you go. Come back to the acceptance, come back to the love, come back to the nurturing, make the commitment. And cultivate that within yourself. Do you see what I'm saying? You have to cultivate that within yourself. Nobody can do that for you. And sometimes it takes some time. Because the notion that you need to be fixed, healed, changed, and improved, or that you're broken, has been reinforced over time. I'm here every day. I don't know what more I'm supposed to do exactly. And then, in the event that you just showed up, there's all access. There's now all these videos on YouTube. So there's everything that you need. But at some point, you have to love yourself enough to use it, to make the most of it, to apply it. To apply it. And I'll tell you something. And I've noticed this firsthand in our community. The people that have made the commitment and that have been consistent and that have devoted themselves to accepting themselves and loving themselves and embracing themselves are living in a whole new reality. Same life. They just have a totally different relationship with themselves. So it works. So it works. So here's the miracle. You now know what you have to do. You know what's available to you. And now people who have done that are through the other side of it, so you know that it works. So you know that it works. And so recognize that you have to love you. You have to choose you. You have to prioritize you. And this is just the icing on the cake. How many of you can see that you're suffering, that you're struggling, that you're experiencing some illusory vibrational deficiency because you have not prioritized yourself in your life? Leave me 1 or yes in the chat. There you go. But the reason why you're suffering, the reason why that you're experiencing some illusion of vibrational deficiency, the reason why there's still some struggle, the reason why there's still some semblance of victim consciousness is because you have not prioritized yourself in your life. So, what we have here works. It works. It's working. And it's not magical. It's not out of the realm of possibility and potential for people. It's not inaccessible. It's made accessible to everybody every day. You have to use it. You have to love yourself enough to use it. You have to love yourself enough to commit to it. You have to love yourself enough to go back and to re-listen and to re-experience, because it's all there. This is why I've recorded everything. Whether I'm here, whether I'm not here, whether there's a call to calm or not, there's a video, there's a meditation, a monologue on everything. There's an archive of 1,403 monologues and meditations that you can go back to and you can connect with. And so everything has been made available to everybody. And if you want to realize your potential, then accept yourself, love yourself, nurture yourself, embrace who you are as a human being. Embrace who you are as a human being. Rest in the awareness of your breath. Allow yourself to love yourself enough to use it, to make the most of it, to go deeper into it, especially because it works. Especially because it's worked for people like you from all over the world, from all walks of life. It's worked. So, if you are still in victim consciousness, you are still struggling, you are still fixing, healing, changing, and improving, still having a hard time with you, then please, as much as possible, accept and embrace who you are. You are invalidating the blessing, the miracle, and the bounty that is ever present in every moment for yourself. Because what you are doing is you have disqualified yourself from everything that's always here. You just can't see it and you can't experience it. Because you haven't allowed yourself to be the kind of person who can. Your acceptance and your love of yourself makes you the kind of person that can receive every blessing, that can receive everything that life has to offer you. But 2025 is where the rubber meets the road. There's no more coasting through the monologues, the meditations. There's no more. No more. No more. And so, I can't remember what the biblical verse is, but it's something about the fact that it's not just faith, right? It's through your works, it's through the application, right? That it's not just about the belief. There has to be some ability to apply. There has to be some devotion. There has to be some application. Faith without works is dead. Faith without works is dead. All of this content, all of this information, all of these monologues, all of these alignment sessions, all of that without your application is meaningless. So please, as much as possible, choose yourself, love yourself, accept yourself, embrace yourself, rest in the awareness of your breath. And notice what happens. And I can tell you what happens. All of a sudden, life becomes simple, life becomes obvious. You begin to appreciate the blessing, the miracle. You begin to realize the potential and the possibility of life that was always there. And most importantly of all, you no longer invalidate yourself from the experience of your life. You're no longer disqualifying yourselves. So, not an easy conversation to have. However, it's time to get real. And it's time for some of you to get real about who you're showing up for, where you're putting your energy, and where you're spending your time. Because now, you've got to choose yourself. You've got to choose yourself. And you have to keep going. We've come too far for you not to keep going. Do you understand? If we were climbing Mount Everest together, we've come too far now for you to not keep going. Now that we know that we can love ourselves, let's see how much we can love ourselves. Now that we know that we're the source of the abundance, let's find out exactly how abundant we can be. Now that we know that life can be blissful and peaceful and that there are obvious solutions and answers, let's see how wonderful it can be. Let's be curious about that. Because if we're going to be here and we're going to be human and we were born in the right species, in the right vibration, in the right dimension, on the right timeline, on the right planet, then it's up to us to make the most of it. And that is something that you cannot teach. That's something that you cannot teach. That is something that inherently comes from deep within the individual. And I pray and ask with all that I am that you cultivate that conviction for yourself. That you cultivate that devotion and dedication to yourself. I love you with all my heart. But where we're going now is for those who love themselves. That's where the world is headed. The world is headed in a direction where those who love themselves are going to start living an experience of being human that's totally different than they could ever imagine. Same life, but totally different. So, sending you all a big hug. Sending you all a big hug. And I mean it. Everything you need is here. Every single thing. Go back and watch the old YouTube videos. Go back and Watch the old, if you're in All Access, go back and watch the old All Access monologues and meditations. It's all there. Now use it. Laurel. Stop typing Om Shanti heart emoji. Day 1,404 days of call to calm. Can't believe it. All right, take some breaths. Yay. Good morning, sweet friends, and welcome to another Call to Calm meditation. You're at an interesting intersection in your life, and you're discovering that it's between you and yourself. Some of you have accepted yourselves and loved yourselves and nurtured yourselves sufficiently so that you are no longer under the influence of survival, and that you are no longer experiencing separation or duality. Which means that you no longer need to depend on other people to love you. You no longer need other people. You no longer need other people to be the source of your joy. You no longer need other people to be the source of your enlightenment. You no longer need other people to be the source of anything for you. Because while you were in separation and duality, the best that you could do was depend on other people and beholden to the degree to which they had actualized these things for themselves. Which in most cases is not very much at all. In oneness, you realize that you're the source of all of these things. That you're the source of the love, that life is as you are. And through your acceptance of your emotions, your acceptance of your feelings, your acceptance of your thoughts, your acceptance of your body, your acceptance of your circumstance, you begin to realize that there is a deeper truth, a deeper power available to you all the time. One that eluded you and evaded you while you were surviving everything, or while you were still gathering data points and evidence as to why it's not working, as to why life isn't fair, as to why everything's happening. So, that's the intersection that you're at within yourself. And there's a part of you that really wants to move on. There's a part of you that really wants to move on from everything, because there's a part of you that knows that it's possible and available. But now you have to commit to it. You have to commit to it. You have to devote yourself to it. Because you have to do it for you. You have to apply everything that's shared here every day and make it actionable. Otherwise, it's not worth anything. Close your eyes, you beautiful human beings. Take some long, deep cleansing breaths and allow yourself to open your beautiful palms and be here. Resting in the awareness of your breath transforms your life into a living meditation. Becoming aware of your every inhalation and exhalation. This morning, recognizing that if you are still suffering, it is because you have not accepted and embraced yourself. Giving yourself a moment to open your heart to your emotions, your feelings, your mind, your body, your identity, your past, your story, and your present. And with every inhalation and exhalation, feeling and experiencing all of these things that were never a problem, that were never an issue, that were just parts of yourself that you hadn't opened your heart to complete. In the presence of that completion, discovering that you are on a journey. The perfect unfolding of a plan, the perfect unfolding of a destiny. A lifetime within which you know love in its total and complete form and manifestation, and you know it as yourself. And in this moment, making the commitment to accept and love yourself and to prioritize yourself. And as soon as you do, all of a sudden, the next step emerges in front of you, the next piece of the puzzle, the next point of experience becomes available. And then you accept yourself more and love yourself more. And then another part of the path opens up. Another piece of the puzzle makes itself known to you. The next obvious step presents itself. Today, I make the commitment to prioritize myself, and I acknowledge that that is not selfish. That actually I'm the only person who can really love myself. Nobody else can. And if I don't do it, nobody else will. So today, I devote myself to deepening this experience of acceptance and love that I've cultivated within myself, for myself. And I allow people to have their journey, to have their path, and I have infinite compassion for them. But I also acknowledge that I'm just not there anymore. Continuing to rest in the awareness of your breath. Committing to how great your life can be. How awe-inspiring it can be. How much love there is. How much abundance there is. How much guidance there is. How much support there is. How blessed you are. How life is not withholding anything from you. Nor would it. Because creation cannot deny itself. So in every moment, I accept myself. I embrace who I am. I rest in the awareness of my breath. I trust myself. I know that I have the capacity to live my life. And I want to find out exactly how much a human being can embody love within their lifetime. I am the source of it. And I allow myself to fully experience it. Feeling every attachment or unconscious connection that you had to every person in your life falling away, melting away. And acknowledging that the reason why you have suffered in your life is because you have not prioritized yourself. Feeling yourself moving on from people, from circumstances, from relationships, from dynamics, from stories. Moving on because you love yourself, you respect yourself, and you want to know how great your life can be, how much you can love yourself, how much love you can embody. So wholeheartedly, giving yourself the gift that only you could ever give yourself, the gift of your love. The gift of your love. Exactly the way that you are. The path ahead of you is clear. And it's exciting. And you're ready for it. It requires your commitment, your devotion, and your application. And you deserve it. So now receive it. Embody it. And live it. Take some breaths. And gently and slowly you can bring your awareness back to your body, the room that you're in. Life didn't deal you a bad hand. The universe dealt you the perfect hand. Now it's up to you to play the cards that you've been dealt. The right species, the right timeline, the right dimension, the right planet, the right moment in human history. What are you waiting for? Everything is here for you. Now you just have to apply it. And what makes that so special is the fact that people who have are now living in a totally different experience of being human. One that's available to everybody. But in order to have that, you have to prioritize yourself. You have to commit to it. Don't let today just be yet one more opportunity that passes you by. Make the most of it, especially because it works. It actually works. Today's Wednesday. There's a group alignment session today. I'm personally signed up for all of the group alignment sessions. I love them. I'm also signed up for Impact for the whole year. It's my favorite thing to do. A group alignment session is your opportunity to be supported in a group setting by me. If you are still struggling or suffering or having a hard time accepting or embracing you, then those group alignment sessions are a good idea. Until you have the foundational piece of love and acceptance that the monologues and the meditations and the group alignment sessions provide you, you're not going to get the most out of Impact. So focus on what you immediately need to focus on, which is the acceptance, the embracing and the loving of you, and also the liberation of yourself from separation and duality into oneness, which is what happens. And then, once you have that, well, then we'll show you a world that you can't even imagine right now. That's what Impact is for. But until you have this foundational piece, you can't have the rest of it. Because as long as you continue to live in the illusion that you have to fix, heal, change, and improve, or there's something wrong with you, you will continue to disqualify yourself from everything that life has to offer you. And one way or another, 2025 is the year where the rubber meets the road. Everyone's going to have to go through it somewhere or other. Sending you all my love. Every day with love, everything is made available for every human being, regardless of their circumstance. Now it's time for you to apply yourself and make the most of it all. Because when I went through all of this, I didn't have anybody that I could call. There was no Zoom call. There was nowhere I could go every day. So actually, you're receiving all of the things that I wish that I'd had when I went through all of this by myself. Have a great day, you beautiful humans. I love you with all my heart.